Yep. Today we'll be talking about Spider-Man, which, if you did not know, I am a fan of Spider-Man, like a lot of people. And I can't wait for the Spider-Verse film that will be coming out. That's a sequel to the first one. But yeah, and I'm ready for Spider-Man 2, which I'll be streaming if I can get the game on day one. And I can't wait for it. But yeah, there's been a lot of bad things in the comics nowadays, but today let's focus on the positives, and that is a very good comic series that is the only good thing to come out from that specific universe. First, I am talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, one of the best comics to be written in the Ultimate Universe, written by Michael Bendis and, dang it, I can't remember his name. But I do know Michael Bendis did write this comic. But that doesn't matter right now. Sorry if I forgot one of the names. I'm not good with keeping up with names. But that's not the point. The story of the comics and the people that wrote it is amazing. There has been many bad comics, but that wasn't because of Michael Bendis. That was mostly a different writer, or what their writer did with their characters. So yeah, but today we're going to be focusing on one of my favorite sagas and one of my favorite parts of Ultimate Spider-Man. Yep, the Venom saga, which we're going to talk about the story and what I like about it and why it's one of my favorite comic book stories for this specific story of Spider-Man comics. So let's begin. Recap of what happened before we got to the saga is Mary Jane broke up with Peter over what happened with the clone. And no, not the clone saga, but it was some kind of person dressed in a Spider-Man costume who was faking being Spider-Man, which got Mary Jane thinking, okay, I'm done with this. Basically, she's in danger for her life. And she doesn't want to be with Peter anymore because of that. And which leaves Peter in a mood of depression, which then leads him into going into a basement, I think. Yeah, basement. And he finds some old tapes of that time when the family was all together at a park. And while this looks like a happy memory, it's a sad memory for Peter and Aunt May. And which becomes to a moment where Aunt May's tells Peter that she's looking at a ghost to her past self. A person that she does not know, and that's basically her past life, and she's misses it, but does not remember. I can't remember what she says, but something like that. So what happens is that there's a little twist at the end, and if you're a fan of Spider-Man, then this is going to bring a shock to some people, or people that have read the comic. And that is, the kid that's hanging out with the family of Peter Parker is also Eddie's family, which then leads to Peter's friend, Eddie Brock. So after all these memories he's watched, he finally calls Eddie Brock, who is in the town he's in, and they go and meet up, and then they finally go to his lab with his teacher, Dr. Connors. And what we see at the end is a black goo. So there is a lot more to the story of this, but I'm going to skip a part because I want y'all to read this comic. And I'm going to get into the final part of this video, which is going to be the final part of where Peter Parker gets the symbiote. So after a long time of thinking about it, because they took his father's research, he puts on the symbiote and he wears it. So he goes to town. He goes all the way to town, fighting bad guys. He feels amazing. He can break cars. He doesn't have, anytime there's any sound, he can't feel it, which is a difference to the original comic. He is basically, until something happens.
Good. Great. More than myself. It didn't last.
What's happening to me? Get this off of me!
I don't know what the suit had become or what it had done to me, but I have super spider powers and I couldn't control it.
After Peter seeing the things the symbiote can do to him and has a mind of its own, he goes back to Aunt May's house. And he's fixing his costume, I think. Well, no, he's not, but he's sitting there, seeing a sad version of his father, realizing that the wrong person he signed the paper to, he realized how bad of a mistake this project was, and how bad it was. And we see that as his last recording of him having regrets of everything. Everything he did with his science projects and everything. That is how before the final issue begins, that's how this issue ends. Before this, Eddie Brock, though, did see that the symbiote was taken, or the science project that we'll call it for right now, has been taken. So he turns on the TV and sees sees Spider-Man in a black costume, and he is suspicious and he is angry. So he goes back to the lab and sees Peter Parker, his own friend, putting back the symbiote that he took, and he explains to Eddie that he is Spider-Man. He reveals it to him, making him more mad than ever. He even tells him that this thing was a mistake and they need to destroy it right now, and everything that this symbiote stands for is not good. Though his father told him that, Eddie is mad. He is mad that because this is something he's dedicated his life to, just to then have his own friend tell him what to do with this project. He worked his entire life to this project. His own work, his own father and his father's work, and you're telling me that this is a mistake? Eddie then says that he needs time alone. He needs to go and think about this. While this happens, he sees Peter Parker run away with the project in his hands and destroys it. And while this is good, this makes Eddie more mad than ever. He then goes to the lab and gets a backup, and he then turns into Venom. And the pain and his hatred and everything that's happened, this moment, that's been leading up to this moment, he now hates Peter Parker more than ever.
Our fathers died to create me, and now will too.
Listen to me, Eddie. You're smarter than this. This isn't you, it's the suit.
Peter is trying his best not to hurt Eddie, but the thing is, Eddie wants to hurt Peter, and Venom wants to eat him.
Lie on the ground with your hands over your head. Both of you, on the ground now. The hell is that?
After the following events that happened that night, Peter is trying to find Eddie, and he gets mad at Nick Fury and Dr. Connors. And while this is all going on, he's hunting him down, and he's trying to find him. He keeps screaming, "Eddie, Eddie, where are you?" And he keeps trying to find him until it ends with he does not find Eddie. And we end off with Peter standing in the building with nobody there but himself, and a bit of shading of Venom, or the symbiote that could be his sadness. And that is the end of this saga, and the tragic story of Peter losing a friend. And the thing I like about the story is how it's done in a way that makes you see the friendship of Peter Parker and Eddie, and giving us more detail on Peter Parker's father, as well as giving us more dynamic between the family and what happened and why they were a good family, and why it's sad that Peter Parker doesn't really have anybody besides Aunt May and Gwen, which are the only family he has left. And that is the thing that makes the story sad. He finally found a friend of his from his original family, a person that his family knew, and at the end, Eddie was filled of madness, anger, hatred, anger for Peter. He hated him a lot after he took the project, filling him with anger and the symbiote taking over him, and Peter losing a friend. And I like the story of how sad it is, but I like it because Venom is a very cool character, and it's a very interesting look into the retelling of this storyline and how we see Eddie. And I like how they made Eddie more than just a newspaper guy. They made him a friend of Peter Parker as a kid, as well as tying in the Venom, the symbiote, into Peter's family's projects and what happens with the symbiote and why they tried to cure cancer. I think it's an interesting look into Venom as a character. But that is the end of this video, guys. I do have plans to make more videos. It's just I've not been in the mood to make videos, but now I am, and we'll be doing a lot more content that's more positive and, well, more than just sadness. But I really wanted to just talk about how good this story is. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.